Hello and welcome to This Day in History for December 26th. December 26th is the 360th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 5 days remaining until the end of the year. I'm filming in a different setting today. If it works out well, then I'll film here more often than not. Today's word is Fink. It's a noun, often considered to mean a contemptible person, an informer, a strike breaker, someone acting as an informer or a decoy for the police. It can also be used as a verb that means to inform against someone, to fail to do something promised, to stop working, or to take the place of work of someone on strike. The origin of this term is not certain. One theory suggests it might be named after Pinkerton, a private security company whose agents were hired to break up strikes late in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Another possibility is that it's from German slang, Fink, for finch, used by students for other students who were not affiliated with a fraternity, as in they were free birds. Earliest documented use is 1903. Now, before we go on, I want to remind you that links to my research are included in the show notes. So if you're wondering, where in the world did I get that? You can check the show notes. And with that, we're going to start on the morning of December 26, 1776, when General George Washington's Continental Army reached the outskirts of Trenton, New Jersey, and descended upon the unsuspecting Hessian force guarding the city. Trenton's 1,400 Hessian defenders were still groggy from the previous evening's Christmas festivities and had underestimated the Patriot threat after months of decisive British victories throughout New York. The troops of the Continental Army quickly overwhelmed the German defenses, and by 9:30 a.m., Trenton was completely surrounded. 1791, this day, is the birthday of a fellow named Charles Babbage. He was an English mathematician and engineer. He invented a device called the difference engine. And what is a difference engine? Well, it's an automated mechanical calculator designed to tabulate polynomial functions. Which is a long way around of saying that it's a mechanical calculator to solve algebra problems. This was his birthday back in 1791, and he died in 1871 at the age of 79. In 1820, Moses Austin asked the Spanish for a Texas colony. Hoping to recover from bankruptcy with a bold scheme of colonization, Moses Austin met with Spanish authorities in San Antonio to ask permission for 300 Anglo-American families to settle in Texas. Initially they refused, but he persisted and eventually talked him into it. Once he successfully obtained the grant, he went back east to recruit colonists, but he fell ill and died. His son, Stephen Fuller Austin, took over. Now, for anyone who knows much about Texas history, yes, that is the very Stephen Austin, known as the father of Texas and the founder of Texas, and after whom Austin, Texas is named. Stephen Austin and others brought nearly 25,000 people into Texas over the next 10 years or so. This day in 1893 is the birthday of Chinese politician Mao Zedong, chairman of the Communist Party. He died in 1976 at the age of 82. On this day in 1898, Marie and Pierre Curie announced the isolation of radium. In 1917, the U.S. government took over control of the nation's railroads. 8 months after the United States entered World War I on behalf of the Allies, President Woodrow Wilson announced the nationalization of a large majority of the country's railroads under the Federal Possession and Control Act. In March of 1918, the Railroad Control Act was passed into law. It stated that within 21 months of a peace treaty, the railroads would be returned by the government to their owners and that the latter would be compensated for the usage of their property. Consequently, the USRA was disbanded 2 years later in March of 1920, and the railroads became private property once again. In 1919, Babe Ruth of the Boston Red Sox was sold to the New York Yankees by owner Harry Frazee, allegedly establishing the curse of the Bambino superstition. They can call it a superstition if they want, but it was the curse of the Bambino for sure. December 26 of 1939 is the birthday of Phil Specter, American singer, songwriter, and producer. He developed the music production technique called the wall of sound. As I read this in 2019, he's still alive and turns 79 today, although he will be spending his birthday behind bars because he was convicted of a second-degree murder in 2009 for the death of a woman in his home in 2003. 1941, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed a bill establishing the fourth Thursday in November as Thanksgiving Day in the United States. In 1943, Britain surprised German attackers in the Arctic. On December 26, the German battlecruiser was sunk by British warships in the Arctic after decoded German naval signals revealed that the Scharnhorst was on a mission to attack the Anglo-American convoy to Russia. In 1944, General Patton relieved Allies at Bastogne. He employed an audacious strategy to relieve the besieged Allied defenders of Bastogne, Belgium, during the brutal Battle of the Bulge. The day after Christmas on 1946, mobster Bugsy Siegel opened the glitzy Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the birthday of American baseball player and Hall of Famer Carlton Fisk. He turns 73 today. American baseball player, sportscaster, and Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith turns 65 today. On December 26, 1956, the visionary car maker Preston Tucker died of lung cancer. He was just 53 years old. In 1966, the first day of the first Kwanzaa was celebrated in Los Angeles on this day. The name Kwanzaa is derived from a phrase, Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits in Swahili. On each of the 7 nights, the family gathers and a child lights one of the candles on the kinara or candle holder, and then one of the 7 principles is discussed. The principles are values that contribute to the building and reinforcing of community, such as unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, economic cooperation, purpose, creativity, and faith. So happy Kwanzaa, everyone. In 1963, the Beatles' I Want to Hold Your Hand and I Saw Her Standing There were released in the United States, marking the beginning of Beatlemania on an international level. On this day in 1972, former President Harry S. Truman died in Independence, Missouri at the age of 88. In 1973, a movie called The Exorcist opened in theaters. The Exorcist was a horror film starring the actress Linda Blair as a girl possessed by an evil spirit. It earned a reputation as one of the scariest movies in history. The Exorcist was based on William Peter Blatty's 1971 novel of the same name, about the last sanctioned Catholic exorcism to take place in the United States in the late 40s. In 1974, American comedian, vaudevillian, actor, and violinist Jack Benny died on this date in 1974. He was a funny guy. He often portrayed his character as a miser who obliviously played his violin badly and ridiculously claimed to be 39 years of age regardless of his actual age. He was actually 80 when he passed. And I must say that 39 was the only birthday I ever dreaded because Jack Benny and George Burns both were eternally 39. I got over it before the end of the day, though. In 1985, world-renowned primatologist Diane Fossey was found murdered in her cabin at Karasoke, a research site in the mountains of Rwanda. It is widely believed that she was killed in connection with her lifelong crusade against poaching. In 2006, American commander, lawyer, politician, and 38th President of the United States, Gerald Ford, died on this day in 2006 at the age of 93. When I looked a little further into Gerald Ford's biography, because I often do that, I discovered that he was born with a different name. And I thought, why does he have a different name? When did he change his name? What's that about? Well, it is that his biological father was abusive to his mother, and so they divorced. And then she married Mr. Ford when Gerald was a little boy, and they just started calling him Gerald Ford. And eventually he did get his name officially changed. But that's what that was about, Gerald Ford. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us today. As I've already said, links to my research are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And feel free to share if you found this interesting or entertaining, or if you learned something. Share it along. When you do all those things, helps the channel quite a bit. And while you're here, check out my other channel, 8 Susquehanna. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Oh my. Alrighty. Back to work. Okie dokie, Smokey. Let's just rearrange that a little bit. Just read it like it's written. We got those out of order, didn't we? That's not the way I like to tell it anyway. We don't need all those words. Hope I pronounced that right. So happy for editing. So many edits. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? She's not a man. This is why I don't do live shows.